What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, and welcome to another brand new series entitled From Where I Sit. In case you don't get the subtle nod there in the title, let me quickly explain it to you. A very popular way of phrasing an opinion is to say, well, from where I stand, da-da-da-da-da-da, to go into your opinion. Well, as most of you know, if you've ever watched my videos before, I usually don't stand, I usually prefer to sit. Ergo, from where I sit. So that basically gives you the gist of the series. This is going to be a once-a-week series where I sit down with you here for about 5 minutes. I'm going to try to keep these videos relatively short and just kind of give my opinion on something. So this one's going to be a little bit longer with the preamble, and the idea here is to tackle topics that are not just involving sports. A lot of them will be. I'm a sports channel, I got to honor my roots. But not every topic we're going to talk about on this show is going to be related to sports. This week it is, and it isn't. It's a nice mesh of sport and non-sport. So without further ado, let's get into it. From where I sit on gay athletes. It sounds sexier than it actually is. With high-profile recent examples, including Connor Mertens and Michael Sam in college football, the NBA's Jason Collins, Robbie Rogers in Major League Soccer, and Darren Young in the WWE, coupled by the hardline anti-gay political stance of the host nation of this year's Olympics, the topic of gay athletes and homosexuality in sport is at the forefront. And it is undeniable from the outside looking in that there is a subculture within the culture of sports that is very, for lack of a better term, macho, and it's considered to be heterosexual essentially by default. And within the construct of especially professional sport, the stigma around homosexuality is magnified 10 times over. Just as recently as last month, professional NFL player Jonathan Vilma speculated in an interview how he should react, quote unquote, to a gay teammate being next to him in the shower. And fellow NFLer London Fletcher openly admitted how difficult it would be for the first NFL player to come out as gay. And these sentiments are not just confined to the NFL. In late February, CFL star player Arland Bruce engaged in an Instagram tirade against Michael Sam, claiming him to be, quote, afraid to touch female body parts, telling him to, quote, do some motherfucking push-ups, and to, quote, get on your knees and fully submit to God, claiming homosexuality to be a trap. Add to that the seemingly countless other instances of homophobic tweets, slurs, and stereotypes that get thrown around in your average competition of essentially any sport. These are always argued down as simply trash talk and intrinsic to the fabric of the sport. And add on top of that the remnants of intentional, organized political stigmatization of homosexuality by the host nation of this year's Olympics, Russia. Despite arguments that anti-gay laws were struck down in his country decades ago, Russian President Vladimir Putin openly supports his country's new laws around protecting children from non-traditional sexual relationships. He goes on to refer to anything that supports these non-traditional relationships as propaganda. Because if there's any country that knows a thing or two about propaganda, it's Russia. Need I remind anyone within the sound of my voice that this was the host nation of an event whose mantra it is to promote inclusive sport, and whose charter indicates that in part it is a fundamental human right to practice sport free of any kind of discrimination. I know many people who are gay. I have friends who are gay. I likely have gay or curious family members. As a matter of fact, I consulted one of my gay friends before even taking on this topic. But I don't look on my friends who happen to be gay as my gay friends. They're my friends. As I would look on a teammate, or a doctor, or a business partner, or a therapist. They wouldn't be my gay doctor or my gay partner. Oh my. The topic of anything homosexual feels like it honestly should not even be a topic given the generation that we all live in. But whether you deem it fairly or unfairly, homosexuality is still a hot topic. From where I sit, homosexuality in sport should be considered as homosexuality in all other aspects of life. If not at all, meaning it shouldn't be a topic of discussion at all, then it should be considered as a fundamental expression of the human spirit. The mere fact that homosexuality is still considered a public or political issue, in my mind, justifies every single rally, protest, awareness event, anything that you can think of in support of homosexuality. Athletes, both professional and amateur, continuing to come out of the closet as gay is essential in the progression towards fulfilling that Olympic mantra. I also argue that it is essential to both the business future of sport as well as the cultural future of sport that it continues to push towards acceptance and inclusion of homosexual athletes. Until such time as homosexuality is not blinked at, not considered a public or political issue, not considered in terms of being traditional or non-traditional, the work is not done. Now, I don't wish to come on here and persecute individual people for individual beliefs. The nature of a belief system is essentially faith. But belief systems are also mostly harmless if they're kept to you, if they're kept on a personal level and individual. But it's when someone decides to take their belief system and impose it on others that arms need to be taken up, both by members of the persecuted and members of the non-persecuted. In terms of the Olympic Games and professional sports, don't ask, don't tell, might as well read, don't cut it. Because in 2014, no athlete who sacrifices such a huge portion of their life in pursuit of the whimsical dream of being a professional child, playing children's games, grown-up versions of children's games, or getting to the top of their chosen sport, no athlete deserves to face the additional discrimination of who they lay their head down with. As an aside, former NHL player Aaron Ward did a phenomenal 3-part series on TSN entitled Reorientation. The entire series is still on TSN's website. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube as well for those of you in the States. If you can't get TSN, I suggest everyone takes the time to watch that series. It was incredibly well done. I'm Bridgewater's finest, and that's where I sit on gay athletes.